Big news in Blue Jays land. Holy crap, Mr. Mac. Things are happening with this Toronto Blue Jays team.
Yeah, the shakeup is continuing. Let's
I
just get
mean,
it out there. Gabriel Moreno, Lourdes Gurriel Jr. for Daulton Varsho. Massive trade. I don't think anybody saw this coming necessarily. I know Daulton Varsho's been on your radar since the start of
yeah,
summer.
yes.
So are you excited
And
about this?
I am very excited about
All
this.
right.
Listen, this was a very shocking move. And obviously, we all love Lourdes Gurriel Jr. He's been a part of this team for a very long time. And the fact that both Oscar and Lourdes are now shipped out, it's a whole different looking outfield. But, buddy, getting Daulton Varsho out of Arizona, okay? A division that is incredibly difficult in a park that is not all that hitter friendly. And to bring him to Rogers, where he had 27 home runs last year, and in a year where they're banning the shift, which is going to help all left-handed hitters, and to put him in a lineup where he is so much better protected than he was with the Diamondbacks. Man, I'm really excited for this. So we're all over the place here. So let's just kind of take a breath, break down what we just witnessed happen. Okay. And it's funny because Adam and I recorded the mailbag this morning, and we had a big long talk about Gabriel Moreno and
His future with the Blue Jays. Yeah.
would we consider moving him? And well, that's kind of all irrelevant now. So
Of
let's
course,
start.
like on Christmas Eve, Friday
Yes.
at like 4 p.m. is when the Blue Jays make their biggest move of the offseason. Of course it is. After
3
we've
years
recorded
ago.
our show.
3 years ago to the day, by the way, is when they signed Hyun-Jin Ryu. They love their December 23rd signings.
Merry Christmas.
Okay, so let's break down Daulton Varsho. He plays center field. He plays right field. He plays catcher. He was a runner-up for the Gold Glove in center field. He's quick, and he's a good base runner. He stole 16 bases, 26 years old. He's got 4 years of control. Entering his ARB1 year, he's a Super 2 player. So he is under control with this team until 2027. Daulton Varsho, by the way, it was worth 4.6 F-WAR in 2022. This is ninth best, and I know you're not a big fan of WAR, but wins above
It is what
replacement.
it
If we're
is.
going to put it in perspective, he was ninth best amongst all outfielders and had a higher F-WAR than any 2022 Blue Jay. Bo had 4.5, Springer 4.2, Chapman 4.1. So he would be the most wins above replacement on this team. Lourdes Gurriel Jr. has always been an adventure in left field. Love his arm. We talked this morning about how he has improved defensively.
Sure.
And we might even get away with at age 29 saying that he is an average outfielder. Now that might be a bit of a stretch.
Yes.
But we'll give it to him.
Sure.
But let me tell you right now, an outfield of George Springer, Daulton Varsho, and Kevin Kiermaier, man, this very well could be the best defensive outfield in the American League.
Yeah, when all three of those guys are healthy and playing, absolutely. And that's the 1 ounce of Debbie Downer I'm gonna put on this video is just Kevin Kiermaier might not play 162 games. George Springer might not play 162 games. We should get 150 plus out of Daulton Varsho. Springer in right field or left field should increase the amount of games he does appear in. It's not going to hurt. Whatever he appears in next year is going to be more than it would have been if he was in center field. We can agree on that.
And I think the nail is in the coffin for any center field play for George Springer almost at all, barring a complete nightmare situation, right? I mean, they went to great lengths to make sure that they have 2 very good options in center field, as well as Whit Merrifield, who can play some center. So this team defensively takes a huge step forward. And there is another move coming, I think.
If there isn't, I love this offseason. I know everybody was critical of the Teoscar trade and we lost. And I kept saying, much as I got accused of being a Rogers spy or whatever,
Yes.
a tool for the machine, it, we can't evaluate trades in a vacuum. But
Yeah.
now, after a move like this, I'm just looking at, I really didn't think we were going to move both corner outfielders. I knew both were on the block. Moving both has surprised me, and
Hmm.
I'm not upset by it. Um, Greatly improved defensively in the outfield. I know people were critical of, oh, but we're losing all of Teoscar's power. Like, it's been replaced with Daulton Varsho, 27 home runs last year. I know it's like, okay, is that the real? He's young. We still don't know it for
Yes.
sure, but lefty bat, which again, a lot of people were ragging on how right-handed this lineup was. Kiermaier, lefty, Daulton Varsho, impact power, lefty.
Yes.
You touched on the fact that, like, yeah, he could still play catcher if we need him to. Like, in a
That's another
situation
thing to
where
keep in
Danny
mind.
Jansen does have a case of bad tacos mid-season, and we can't have Kirk catching 6 games a week. Well, I'm gonna say Darton now because I've heard you say it 3 times today. Daulton Varsho is gonna play maybe 20 to 30 games at catcher this year, or at
Hmm.
least could if we asked him to, right? So I love it. I'm sad to see Gabriel Moreno go. I really am. This is absolutely a win now move. This is a move by the front office to say we are going to sell a little bit of some prospect future, because that's still what Gabriel Moreno was despite making his debut last year,
Yes.
for an impact player who can help us win now. Dalton
And under
Varsho,
control for 4 years.
this is not a rental. This is not a rental at all. Um, Dalton Varsho, and maybe this is because I know he's not been on a lot of people's radar other than probably you, um, aren't familiar with the name. This is, I think, a realistic expectation of what we could hope for Gabriel Moreno turns into 2 or 3 years from now.
That is a great point. That's
But
the
he's
dream, right?
lefty
Is
and
that,
has more power. We're trading
yeah.
like Moreno's going to be a higher average guy, less power. So this is more power, less average. Still a guy who, like we were talking before, if the Blue Jays don't trade one of their 3 catchers, are we going to just put Gabriel Moreno in the outfield or somewhere in the infield and try and
And
figure it
there's
out?
growing pains to
There's
that,
growing
right?
pains with that. So with Dalton Varsho, we've skipped all the growing pains. We've seen the power at the major league level. This is
Runner-up Gold Glover. He's already proven the defensive stalwart he is in the outfield. The fact that he can fill in at catcher is huge. And I'm going to take a little bit of a left turn here. And I know some of you will not like me bringing this up. I know last time Adam and I talked about this, there were a couple comments that we were racist. I just want to say that just because Lourdes and Teoscar were very excitable guys, they were fun. I loved watching it. I loved watching it. But let's be serious. Lourdes and Teo out, Kiermaier, Varsho, and Mattingly in. This seems intentional to bring a little bit more of a serious feel to this Blue Jays team.
I don't know enough about Dalton Varsho to speculate on his personality in the clubhouse, so I don't know. I'll play
I'm
along with
just
you,
saying,
but
they intentionally broke up the barrio.
yeah, I mean, we're talking about an off-season shakeup. This is, I think, as big of a
This
shakeup
is as
as
big a
we could
shakeup as
have
they come.
guessed in October. What this does feel like to me, in terms of intentional, is this, and every single move this off-season has been a step towards re-signing Bo and Vlad.
It
Not
feels that way now, doesn't it? It really is starting to feel that way.
Teoscar was due for money. We didn't have to commit any money to him. Lourdes was about to be due for money 12 months later than Teoscar. We're not going to have to commit any money to him now. We have kicked the cat down the road, so to
Yeah.
speak. And we haven't made any major additions in terms of Brandon Nimmo, in terms
Mhm.
of Michael
Zero big
Conforto.
contracts have been added. Zero
Zero.
big contracts. I
So
mean, Chris
we
Bassett was our biggest one, right? And
yeah.
that's 23 million a year, or sorry, AAV of 21 million a year over the next 3 years.
But again, that money's off the books by the time Vlad and Bo are going to be due for their payday. So again, this just feels like this is, again, if we're talking about intentional, my interpretation is this is an intentional move to say to young Bo and Vlad, this is your team,
Mhm.
right? Your buddies are gone. This is all
Can you
you.
imagine the success of this offseason if they somehow manage to get those two locked up as well?
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if they did sign big contracts in January or maybe on New Year's Eve, for all I know. Probably by the time this video is out, there's going to be contracts for both of them, if I'm being honest. That's the way it goes. No, it's just, this is a major, this off season, I think, was now after this. And I know people are going to hate it.
Yes. And
Lourdes
there's a
Gurriel was a fan favorite. Teoscar Hernandez was a fan favorite. All the hype in the world for Gabriel Moreno. I talked
100%.
myself into it this morning that I
Yeah.
kind of felt like I wanted him to be the guy that stuck around of the three.
Mhm.
Daulton Varsho is exactly what this team needed. We looked at Brian Reynolds as being something that this team needed. Uh, Probably better offensively than Daulton Varsho, so it's not
But
quite Brian Reynolds, but
but not even close
but
defensively.
Varsho way better defensively, way more flexibility. Like you're not putting
Mhm.
Brian Reynolds to back catch. And if the asking price was in fact, as John Morosi said, Ricky Tiedemann, we didn't lose Ricky Tiedemann.
Yeah, we've still got our number one prospect, our pitching prospects, right? Yosfer Zulueta, Semro Burst, Ricky, they're all still within this organization, which is very, very important. And adding a guy like Daulton Varsho for 4 years, and yes, it was a hefty price. I am not downplaying the price of this trade.
Nope.
Okay. One
It
of the
was
top prospects in all of baseball.
it was probably an overpay. If I'm being
Probably.
honest, probably an overpay. But just looking at where the games get distributed, I don't see how you fit Gabriel Moreno in for 160 games next year. I don't know how
How do
you
you
fit him in
carry
for
3
100.
catchers in this league? Like,
I
how
know.
do you? It's
I know. And the pushback on that is going to be, well, there's injuries and you always, he's going to get playing.
of
Sure,
course.
but that
But the
you
fact Varsho can also play catcher.
exactly, right? So, no, this really is honest to God, I think Daulton Varsho, as long as he continues on the trajectory he's been on through his first 3 seasons in the major leagues, a great addition to this Blue Jays team. And I do really genuinely feel like when it's all said and done, if you look back at career numbers, I bet you'd be lucky to get the same kind of production out of Gabriel Moreno that you're going to get from Daulton Varsho. I just think, like you said, growing pains, learning a new position in the outfield, all that stuff. We get to skip 2 years of growing pains. We get to skip 2 years of him adjusting to major league pitching. He's here
Mhm.
now. He hit 27 bombs last year. That's big time. A
And
big
there is
power lefty bat in the middle of this lineup. You put him
oh,
5 or 6 where Teoscar was. Man, this is a big time move. This is a
this is a
big
big
time
time move.
move.
This is a
So
really great move for this team going forward. There is more to come. Like Mark Shapiro spoke just yesterday on the fact that he felt like there were numerous moves in place and they just need to start pulling strings. He talked about the bullpen, and I think it's pretty obvious they've only got 3 outfielders. They are going to need to go out and get
yeah,
another
Kevin
outfielder.
Biggio. They got Whitmer.
Okay, so you
I know,
you got your Kevin
it's fine.
Viggios, you got your Whit Merrifields. I think that there will be a legitimate outfielder added, whether it's Jurickson Profar, switch hitter, formerly with the Padres. David Peralta is a little over the hill, but he's got some pop in his bat. He could fit maybe a trade with the Twins for a Max Kepler. There are options out there where you could add another lefty and another outfielder and really balance this lineup.
Look, here's for me the big takeaway from this offseason so far. We've significantly increased the left-handedness and balanced this lineup.
Mhm.
We've added years of control. I realize Gabriel Moreno had several years of control.
Yes.
Still a prospect, so I can't quite evaluate that the same way. This is We're gonna have Craig Ballard on Monday, and
Yes.
I can't wait to pick his brain on some of these things because he loves taking the opposite side of so many of these points. It'll be interesting to see his point of view on Daulton Varsho and the rest of them. But this is
I'm excited, man.
me too.
I think you touched on all the takeaways, and the only thing you didn't really hit home again is defense. Wow, does this ever
Yeah,
make this outfield one of the
mega
best
upgrade,
defensive outfields in baseball?
big time.
Like just the fact that you've got a guy in George Springer who plays a very good center field as your third option. Wow.
Yeah. No, it's crazy. I think it's great. I'm interested to see what the feedback is on this video in the comments
Absolutely.
section.
Let us know what you think. Please reach out, drop a comment. Are you happy? Are you upset? Are you sad to see Lourdes go? Are you thrilled to see Dalton come in? How do you feel this affects the Blue Jays going forward? Listen, I know it's going to be a little bit of what's the best way of putting it? A few days to kind of warm up to the idea. It hurts, right? It's like when Teoscar left. It's just, he's a guy who's been around for a long time in Lourdes.